Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Game Dev Local Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Butler, aka the Gaming Recruiter. This week is a little different in that I will be bringing to you some pre-recorded content from my own LinkedIn live series called Game On, where I speak with leaders from across the industry in an attempt to make the games industry a better place to work, play, and stay. A little while ago, I got to sit down with Zsuzsa Kollati, Head of People and Culture at Wushu Studios. We spoke about what works at Wushu, the journey they've been on to get there, and how they hope other studios can one day follow their example. Please enjoy. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Game On Live, a live LinkedIn series from the Gaming Recruiter, aiming to make the games industry a better place to work, play, and stay. Episode 2, I'm joined by Zsuzsa Kollati, who is the Head of People and Culture at Wushu Studios. Hi, Zsuzsa. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good indeed. Thank you very much for joining me for this second ever episode of the live series. I'll let you kind of do a bit more of an introduction to yourself and kind of what it is that a head of people and culture do, and fill people in. In the meantime, anybody that has joined us for this live lunch and learn, if you could just drop into the comments, let us know that you're watching, let us know where you're watching from, we will get into some very juicy questions for Zsuzsa throughout this episode, and hopefully uncover some key benefits of the workplace wellbeing policies that we've got in place at Wushu. But Zsuzsa, over to you. Just a little introduction for yourself and Wushu Studios in general.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely honoured to join you today. And essentially, Wushu is my very first job in the gaming industry. So I feel very, very privileged to be working for such an organisation as Wushu. I definitely was just thrown away by all the fantastic values that Wushu have. And that's one of the reasons actually why I joined Wushu. It's coming to 2 years now. It's 2 years on Halloween, actually. And Wushu has grown super fast over the past 2 years, and therefore the investment in the operations team and the people operations team, or the POPs team as we call ourselves, are still very new. And we've been here about 2 years, and we've just expanded our team last year as well. So in terms of my role and how it evolved, it has changed a bit since I joined Wushu, and we continue to grow our roles ever since. We have 4 people in the people operations team at the moment, and we kind of go with the partnering structure that allows us to help the day-to-day as well as work through projects and strategical bits when it comes to the business direction and the company's growth. Culture is super important in Wushu, and I'm sure people heard it recently as well, that we're very much a people-first organization. We believe that our people are just our cornerstone to all the success, and their well-being is super important. And if people are healthy, if people are happy, they will have fun working, and they will deliver and perform to the highest standard, and they would want to actually perform and work well. It's one of those things where you would want people to be able to just wake up in the morning and think, okay, I'm so grateful that I get to work for Wushu, and I get to work on this game, and I get to have such amazing colleagues. And this is the essence of Wushu. So everything is around our people in terms of prioritizing them, as well as collaborating with each other on a day-to-day and quite in a wider sense as well. So I think that's kind of a gist of it, as a bit of a summary of Wushu. I could talk about the culture piece definitely for a very long time. In terms of my role, is obviously just making sure that everything we do, it relates to who we are and what our culture is. Every policy that we do, it isn't just a tick box exercise. We're actually doing it aligned to our culture and by listening to our people. So everything we do has to resonate our culture. That's my probably the best way to put what a head of people and culture does, to make sure that we continue that and try and maintain this culture as we grow, because it's a lot harder than people might realize. It's a lot easier when you're smaller, and as you grow, it's a lot harder to maintain the essence of a studio culture.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the one thing that I picked up from that. And thank you for giving us that background on your role and Wushu, especially that with high growth comes potentially a risk of loss of that original kind of culture and values from a startup going into that 30, 40, 50 person head. I think there's a lot of studios out there that do start up with those small teams that are 10 and 15, and they've probably all known each other for a number of years, and they all trust each other to do a really good job, and they don't necessarily think that they need a culture and value kind of foundation. It's not until that you start to bring people in from kind of maybe outside of that friendship group where those foundations become really important. Could you talk to me a little bit about kind of what Wushu had in place before you arrived, and what were the kind of sort of give me an idea of kind of what your first 100 days were like, coming into that environment? Because I believe you were the first HR hire that Wushu made, right?
Actually, I was the third one.
Okay.
In a space of a year, I was the third one to join the people operations team. So at that time, it was very much, Wushu was already going through a massive growth. And the people operations manager who was in place before me, and she's still obviously in place in a different kind of role in terms of our partnering structure. And she was the one who was putting first structures in place and policies and kind of builds on what it was. Very much to what you explained before, as a smaller group of people, mostly everybody known each other from different companies before, and it's all a very, very much of a friendly environment. And as you start to grow as an organization, you do have to put in processes in place. If you start putting in processes in place, you need a structure, and then you need policies, and then kind of it's more like an organic growth that Wushu has gone through. But at the time I joined, we already had another person in the people operations team, and she was helping with all the onboarding, and just we can only imagine the amount of onboarding that the team had to do with lots of recruitment. And it was the idea for my role was to look at the bigger picture, to look at our performance review process, to look at our having a leadership program, to look at everything else that really more from a bit of a just stepping back and really just do the bigger picture side of things. So my first 100 days, I'm laughing because obviously it's interesting to think back that 2 years ago where we were and how much we've grown. And sometimes we forget to stop and appreciate that oh my God, we've done so much. So it was more about looking through what's been in place and just kind of make sure I understood Wushu and the people. I think that's what a lot of people or companies might miss sometimes, to allow that time, especially for people in roles like mine or anyone, to be honest, in a capacity where you're responsible for people and culture, to absorb this, to absorb culture, to get to know the people. And I was actually very lucky because I remember meeting with Al, our studio head at the time, and I was asking him, so enthusiastic, and like, okay, so what do I need to do? Like, what? Just tell me what you want me to do. And he just said, just chill. I want you to learn about Wushu and get to know the culture. So he really supported this from the start and didn't rush me into like, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. I could have done that. I could have used, 12 years of experience that I've worked in other industries actually, and what I've done, and just copy that and bring that to Wushu. But that wasn't the point. The whole point was to create something that works for Wushu, including the performance review process, which is not something that most companies do. So my first 100 days was definitely about that, and then looking at HR systems, which could be the bit more boring parts of things. But yeah, and we did an absolute overhaul of reviewing what's been done when it comes to performance reviews. What are the options? And I went in and drew up all the different options. What would be the world without appraisals, for example? And we kind of went through it together, and it took months to kind of think through, like, what can we do this? What can we do about it? And how does it work? And my goal was to make something that works for Wushu, not something I learned that, okay, it needs to be a 360. It's more about what works for Wushu and the people. What do people want? Which was more about structure and automation over anything else. Getting rid of Excel spreadsheets and Word documents. So that's why it links in with the HR systems, because you need a system that can do it all. So I think that will probably cover my first 100 days, and then everything else just evolved after that.
Incredibly busy person, I can imagine, throughout that period of time, and I think imagine, as you say, looking back now, very thankful actually that Al gave you kind of that freedom to settle in, understand that the processes that were in place, or perhaps the processes that needed to be put in place before kind of, maybe putting that pressure on yourself to get that in place as quickly as possible. Talking quite a bit there about Wushu's kind of culture and values. Can you give us a little bit of insight on what those foundations are? What, if a new recruit was coming into Wushu, they looked at the website, what are they going to see? What are the kind of, is it 3 or 4 things that Wushu kind of aim for?
So we call them our culture spirit rather than values. And first and foremost, I talked about prioritizing people. So it's all about inspiring them, empowering people actually to do their very best, and give them the autonomy, give them the tools, and let them do what they do best. And very importantly, for a people operations team, we're a support function. We're there to support our team so they can make those amazing games. So essentially that's prioritizing people, crafting experiences together. That's another one, which is, I talked about already, about collaboration being a cornerstone to our culture. Everything we do together. I mean, from the very top to the very bottom, everywhere. And I collaborate with the leadership team. I collaborate with other people, and everything we do is a conversation, a discussion, a sharing of ideas. There is no such a thing when you say that it's a bad idea, or you shouldn't have said this, or I'm going to take offense to it. It's a conversation, and we're all here to make things better. And that's why collaboration is such an important. So we do have an end goal that is very much the same for everyone. And then we have something we call the Wushu way, which is always hard to explain, but it's essentially all about, it's not about being better than anyone else. There is no ladder to climb, essentially. And it's actually on the website, how we put it, that we have people who hold the ladder for other people to climb it. So it's all about helping people grow and develop and make something amazing, and not about taking credit, not about having office politics or anything like that. It's not about, there's no such thing as winning on a meeting. Like, oh, I was the best one. That was the best idea, my one. So it's all about praising each other for the work that they do. Obviously, none of this would work without our unspoken bond, which is trusting each other and have a mutual respect for each other, so everybody feels safe and respected and supported and valued, so you can be who you are at Wushu. And yeah, I don't think I need to say more on that, to be honest. And we do have something called the leadership reimagined, but I won't waste too much time on it, because actually I know you had a session with Andy last week, and Andy, we were working with Andy through the leadership program as well. And one of the reasons we synced up with him very well was because we actually think the same thing, that it's not a position, it's a skill that you develop. And we feel exactly the same, that leadership isn't tied to a rank or a job title or a salary. It's something that people can learn and practice if they want to. but they can just say that, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to be more of an expert in my field and just work on their own craft. And we will say that's okay too. So it's giving people the option to lead if they want to.
That's amazing. Yes, you're absolutely right. We had Andy on for episode 1, and it's very insightful conversation. I think, as I said, leadership very much we assume is tied to seniority, and I think what Andy is preaching, and obviously what you guys are putting in place, is that's definitely not the case. I think it takes individuals, to kind of step up and either want to do it or not, as the case may be. So it's really important. And actually going through those the cultures and spirit of Wushu as well is some really important foundations there that create a very positive, and I can only imagine very productive workplace too. I picked up a little bit there on the trust one as well. I think that there's a bit of a shift that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, sort of post-pandemic, with moving towards more remote and hybrid working environments, and it now seems to be kind of swinging back a little bit with like return to office policies and things like that. If I could just get your thoughts on kind of what Wushu have in place in terms of, are you advocates for remote working? Do you have hybrid? What's going to be the plan going forward in terms of maybe a potential return to office as well?
So we have all of those. We have a studio, which it's a brand new studio in the heart of Liverpool that we just moved to in May. So people who want to work in a studio can. We also offer hybrid opportunity if people want to work in that way and fully remote. I mean, our studio is in Liverpool. I'm somewhere in Oxfordshire. So I'm working remotely myself. We are remote first, but it's more like giving people the option to choose how they want to work. Like we're asking people to kind of reflect on like, how do I work best? What works for me? And for example, I went up to Liverpool last week for a couple of days because I wanted that interaction. I wanted to be in the studio, and that was all my choice. I just wanted to be in there, hang out with people and go out for lunch or dinner. So we don't have any plans of forcing people back in the office. And we have seen this happening, of course, through the industry. We do think differently in a way that face-to-face interaction is super important and actually very crucial to people's well-being. And there are some things that it's just easier or better to do in a face-to-face collaboration. But when it comes to your day-to-day job, if you can do it from home, why not? Like, why not save the commute if you can? But also think about it, like we're based in Liverpool. If we really restricted ourselves, that would really restrict our talent pool as well. So this way we opened up our talent pool so we can recruit from the entire UK and not miss out on great talent who aren't Liverpool based, essentially. So it comes with its challenges, that's for sure, having a team that is so spread across the entire UK. Nothing is perfect, but as long as we're giving people the option to choose and give the flexibility of how they want to do it and what they want to do, then it seems to be working, I would say.
I think that's probably the most important thing, isn't it? Is giving people the option to either be physically located, work hybrid and have the best of both worlds. And it's something that as a recruiter I advocate for is remote working policies as well, because you kind of then open yourself up to a much wider talent pool as well, right? So you don't know who you might be missing out on if you need everybody to be based in and around the Liverpool area, for example. And has it always been that way with Wushu? Is that, or was this brought on by the pandemic? Or what was the?
Yeah, sorry.
So they were physically located pre-pandemic, and then they moved into more sort of remote hybrid and stayed that way, which is great. But yeah, I totally understand the challenges of not being in a face-to-face environment. I myself have worked hybrid or fully remote now for the best part of 7 or 8 years. So even pre-pandemic, I was working from home. But I absolutely love going into the office once a week or once a month to do kind of social activities, big roundup meetings. At least they be in a room and be in, with like-minded people in that space is also super important. And I think that's something that people don't necessarily, they take it for granted maybe a little bit, that like if they can do it fully remote, then they will, but then they miss out massively on that social interaction side of things. What does Wushu have in place for the remote workers in terms of then like keeping them included in the process? And, is there kind of daily calls, meetings, that sort of thing? How does that work for the people that are working fully remote?
So we do a variety of things, and yes, there are daily scrums for the project teams as well, and for any other teams as well. There are regular team meetings. People have regular one-to-ones as well with their leads or their line managers outside of the performance review cycle. We also, so the people operations team is also basically keeping an eye on people who we know that they're struggling more with their well-being. So we do have well-being calls with them as well. But we also live and breathe on Slack. So we have Slack channels for literally anything you can imagine as well. So people can interact that way. And I think probably the most popular channel we have is Random, which is actually random. So anything can go in there. And it just, it just helps us to maintain our culture and communicate and engage if you want to, but also if you don't want to because you're not in the mood, then you don't have to. So it's all about choice. We do have quizzes as well, or some remote events that go on throughout the year. I mean, we're heading into Halloween, so we're going to have a Halloween quiz, which I'm not really good at apparently, but I'm going to try again and hope to win something this year. They actually make it quite difficult, and then we obviously have the face-to-face events as well. So I think it's important and it's about finding the right balance. I mean, don't get me wrong, like when I see the Macmillan coffee morning and all the cakes that were in the studio the week before I went, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm missing this. But I did bake a cake myself at home and I just showed it off and said, oh, it's all for me then. So it's all about when there's something like this happens in the studio, we're encouraging people to do it at home. And for Halloween, we're doing another bake-off, which turned out absolutely amazingly last year. So people showing off their Halloween themed breakfasts and everything. So, but we do have parties as well throughout the year, 3 parties, which helps people get together and socialize face to face in Liverpool. So yeah, it's a variety of things, trying to keep the balance. We also have wellbeing champions who help us keep an eye on people. The Wellbeing Champions is a team that we launched this year, this program, and they're all mental health first aiders as well. So they are helping people operations team to support people, and also some people have a variety of people they can turn to talk about their health. They don't necessarily have to come to the people operations team. They can talk to one of the champions if they wanted to. So yeah, it's all about keeping an eye on people, making sure that communication is there. And I think that can be an issue sometimes with a remote workforce.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of different structures in place to keep them supported, keep them included, and those 3 parties a year sounds like a great benefit of working at the studio too. I'm very much all for that. Having sort of mini festivals and bringing everybody together and whatnot. That's amazing. And I guess there's lots of kind of things around the industry right now, both good and bad, that kind of really touch on the culture of a studio and how people are brought together and work together and kept at their kind of highest possible selves to be productive and happy. And I think that a big part of that is having kind of diverse and inclusive teams as well. I know that a lot of studios that I've spoken to are making active changes to the way that their job descriptions or job ads are written and things like that to encourage more diversity in their application processes. Talk to me a little bit about what Wushu have got in place at the moment, any kind of programs or schemes that perhaps, again, potential applicants might want to hear about that invite that.
Sure. So we have also undertaken quite a few initiatives as well to attract a more diverse pool of applicants. We rebranded our studio and our logo and just even our website for the past year as well to just better reflect of who we are, our personalities and our values, updated imagery and written communications, like the way we post things. There's a mixture of both worlds to help people as well. And also in social media and editorial pieces that we just showcase our tone of voice better, which would show that we're quite relaxed and have quite an informal culture itself. Now, in terms of our job ads, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's quite a huge thing. So we have condensed them as well. So our job ads are no more than 350 words, which and it's all about using clear and neutral language. There are lots of tools around there now where you can just make sure that the language they're using it is neutral, and it just helps people with neurodivergent conditions just to have a clearer language, and just kind of got rid of all the bits and pieces about referencing years of experience and degrees or number of projects shipped. Instead, we focus on, job specific skills and attributes, and obviously rewording the ads was one step, and we're using the applicant tracking system and LinkedIn as well to proactively search for people for have more active and passive talent as well. So we always have a pool of candidates or potential candidates for future job roles, but it's all about the hiring experience and the interviewing experience. So one thing is the job ad and how you go through that process, but what about when you get the first call and have an interview? So that we looked at the whole experience, and we have introduced interview training for hiring managers, not just to go through the basics of, what is it like to have a good interview in place, but also help with reducing potential bias and actually educating them about it. And every job role that we hired for, and what we do is that we try to put a shortlist together that has a balance of genders as well. So this is how we present it to the hiring board, but also every single job role and interviewers are, where we can, they are balanced when it comes to their gender as well. So we, and there's definitely a woman involved in anyone's hiring process throughout the journey, and it's quite important to have that. There's been a lot of talk about empowering women and getting women in the industry, so we're definitely an advocates for that as well. Obviously, throughout the training, we actually trained 40 hiring managers, which is quite a lot even to think about it. But it's a skill that is worked for Wushu, but it's also about a skill that they can use wherever they go, and also hopefully that would impact their everyday work in a different way as well. We introduce competency-based questions as well in interviews to make sure we focus on the competencies. It's a learning process, but also it's about getting feedback. So from the candidates, so everybody who's had an interview would have a phone call to say how they've done, even if they were rejected, and then also getting feedback from them. How was your experience? How else would we learn if we didn't know? But also what we're trying to do now is introduce something that's more anonymous and actually get a survey in place that would go out to candidates afterwards, and they have an option to do it. Obviously they don't have to, but it's just another effort to try and listen. There's another key thing I always say is just try and listen to the people who are going through this, because they will be the ones who will tell us if we're not getting it right, essentially. So that's more on the recruitment side of things. Obviously, we try to attract more diverse talent pool like that.
Yeah, again, I think it's incredible amount of work that you and the team have done there to put those things in place. And I will say that a large part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on to the episode today is we had a chat maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, I think. And again, you were kind of filling me in on the process that Wushu have in place for, particularly where it comes to candidate experience and getting that feedback from candidates. And so you change your process, or you look at the process based on kind of what they're telling you. And to ensure that everybody gets some form of feedback, particularly in the form of a phone call. So it's not just a templated email or anything else like that is great. And I think, this is something that I want to try and do for as many studios as possible, try and work with them and put these very similar sort of processes in place. So yeah, thank you for taking me through that. I think it's really important that people understand as well that there are a number of Wushu studio type people out there that are doing these things, and that candidate experience is very high on the agenda. As much as I think a lot of candidates right now are not having a great experience in terms of the current job market, and not necessarily receiving feedback on their applications, or lots of different things that drop into my inbox on an almost daily basis of they haven't heard back, or they haven't received feedback, or that it's been a 5 or 6 interview process, and then they had a week-long technical test, and it's just there's lots of things that other studios I think can look at what Wushu are doing amongst other studios when it comes to that process, because you're cutting out a huge talent pool that just don't want to put themselves through that. It needs to be very easy to read, easy to process, as unbiased as it possibly can be. And as you said as well, like involving the different genders as well through the interview process is really, really important, because it's I guess it kind of plays into like you can't be what you can't see, right? So like if people are seeing hiring managers of different genders and being interviewed by people of different genders, like it encourages them that this is a great place to come and work, and a very inclusive environment too.
I mean, I have to say we have an amazing talent acquisition team that really advocate for this, and they're, if you ever look on their LinkedIn, they're constantly advocating for a better candidate experience. I have to say it doesn't even stop there, so it's all about onboarding as well. But we could spend another hour talking just about onboarding, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it never stops, does it, in terms of making that person's experience the best it possibly can be, and yeah, I'm so happy that Wushu is out there doing these things, because as I say, yeah, I'm flying that flag as well, and trying to get as many studios as possible to take up this kind of style of candidate experience, because it only will benefit them in the long run. Because I imagine that there's been periods of time where you've had to reject people, and then they've come back and reapplied for other roles when they've become available, because that experience previously has been so good. And I think that's the biggest positive that you can take away from something like that, is if someone wasn't successful with their application the first time around, that they keep coming back because they want to work at the studio, which is incredible. So we'll see, we touched a little bit there on the industry and the current state of it, and I imagine that creates can create quite a stressful working environment as well. And I imagine there's a lot of pressure on people to produce very high quality level of work at almost all of the time. What kind of well-being kind of policies do you currently have in place that potentially make that a little bit easier on people, and perhaps allows them to perform at their maximum for the most amount of days?
Sure. So we have a no crunch ethos and culture. We are very strong about that, and strongly advocating that, actively discouraging people to work overtime, which is, I have to tell you, it's probably a first in my career as well. So essentially, obviously, there are times when it becomes busier, and this is where the production team and the leads are super important when it comes to planning the work and making sure that the deadlines and the timelines are realistic. So when it comes to the people operations team, keeping an eye on people, the leads and the producers are super important for us because they're helping us look after the team essentially on a day-to-day and let us know if somebody might be working a bit later, and it's becoming a pattern. Let's not, let's face it, that there are times when you have to do, you work a little bit more, but that's not crunch. So it's definitely about having the no crunch and having the flexibility and the choice of actually, I feel very creative today. I'm going to do a bit more. And maybe tomorrow I work a bit less. So it's again, giving people the flexibility. So we have a flexible working hours policy in a way that we have core hours between 10 and 4. So we're asking people to be active and online between the hours and 10 and 4. Usually all the meetings that are set are between the core hours. Obviously there's a lunch break and everything in between, but anything outside of that, it's up to people to arrange of how they want to do it, like how they want to work. Do they work best in the morning? I do. But for some people, they like to sleep a little bit longer and start a bit later, and then they prefer working a bit later. So it's again giving people the choice, like you. Yeah, I'm the weird one. I'm a morning person without coffee, so I'm the person people hate usually. But yeah, so it's again giving people the choice. The challenge with the remote work is that the personal life and work life can blur a little bit. Well, not a little bit, quite a lot sometimes. And again, it's about helping people, keeping an eye on people and just making sure we do those one-to-ones, we do those check-ins, and nobody is that isolated that we don't know what's going on with them. There have been, some odd occasions when some people had to work extra because of the office move, for example. We would give time back for people. So it's never, again, crunch is very far something else that we're the founders were very strongly against crunch, and they said that we want to create something and want to show that amazing work can be delivered without it. The thing about this approach and giving that flexibility and again giving the choice for people is that they become actually happier, and our retention super high. I mean, touch words, yeah, of course, but I mean, there's very little turnover because people are happy. They get what they need from Wushu. Wushu is a great place to work still. We just won again the second day in a row. I mean, that does say something because that's based on people's feedback, and then that's the important bit, like listening to the feedback and say, well, actually, what can we do differently? And I feel very happy when I think about the Wushu team and our relationship with them as a people operations team. And I keep saying people operations and POPs for a reason, that we aren't the scary HR that people might have come across it in the past. So we have a very good relationship with our team, and they would come to us and chat to us if something wasn't working or something wasn't right or they were concerned about something. There is no script for the monthly company meetings. Like if you hear the studio heads talking about anything business related, it's all natural. It comes transparent. It becomes honest. And like being in Wushu, it just feels like it's just so natural and organic. And I remember starting here and I still feel the same 2 years on, exactly the same. I feel like, okay, this is my home. It just feels right. I don't have to pretend I'm someone that I'm not. And creating policies like this and having a culture, a no crunch culture, a flexible working approach helps people to be who they want to be and what works for them, essentially. But there are lots of things like family commitments, picking up kids from school, dropping them off in the morning. This allows them to do all this and not being punished for it either.
Incredible. Yeah, amazing. And like I said, I was really keen to get you on and do a full episode like this because the very brief chat that we had previously just kind of really opened up my eyes to how it can be done and how it can be done really well. And yeah, as you say, I mean, winning best place to work 2 years running, your staff retention, it all speaks for itself. So thank you very much for giving me that background on both yourself, what Wushu are doing, the policies, obviously the significant benefits that you're getting from that in that kind of staff retention and low turnover. And happy staff as well, that looking forward to seeing what they produce and the game that comes out of it at the end, because I think that's also going to be a really telling thing as well, that people are prepared to, or happy people are prepared to work a lot harder and put their almost blood, sweat and tears into something when they know that the employer itself is giving back to them in a really big way too. So it will be interesting to see kind of the outcomes, the output of that too. I'll just make one last point before I let you go, Zsuzsa, because I know you've got other commitments throughout this afternoon. Firstly, Wushu are doing a keynote at Develop North in November. Very similar themes, not quite the same, but I know that the team there are going to be on stage at Develop North in Liverpool on November 14th. Just give me a little bit a background on kind of what it is that they will be talking about, please.
Well, actually, about similar things what we talk about, how to do this well with the people first culture, essentially putting people first, and how does it work, and yeah, I probably wouldn't say more than that. I'll leave that to Joe and Nige about it. I think it's just super important to keep talking about it, and I was so glad when you reached out about today, because it's all about, I love helping and get the word out that fundamentally what I've experienced where it can go wrong is when there's a lack of trust. And remote work only works when you trust your team, you trust your people to deliver, you trust them to organize their time and get the work done. Essentially, it's all about the output and show up for work, essentially. And where I've seen things go wrong before was about not having the trust. So even clocking in and out of systems and everything like this. So we don't do any of that. And I think, Al, Joe and Nigel will be talking about this as well. That was the foundation of, Wushu, about just having a place where people have fun while working, which sounds like a dream, and it's true. I have to say, I still have fun
for
every
sure.
day.
That's amazing. No, that's really great. So, if anybody listening is going to Develop North on November the 14th, be sure to go along to Al and Joe's keynote, and they will give you a bit more detail in terms of their people first policies that they have in place at the studio. Anywhere else that you would like to direct people towards in terms of what's coming up at Wushu? Any live roles that are potentially going up on I guess it'd be the website would be the first port of call, right?
Yeah, we definitely use website and LinkedIn quite heavily. Probably not for the year, but you never know. I wouldn't know. I mean, could be that is this year, but probably just next year. But we always accept applications from people throughout the year, so feel free to send CVs through the website, and then your application will go through the talent pool. So when the job roles come up, it's there. I would want to say just one more thing, and I think this is something should have said before, on maybe to fellow HR professionals out there, to try and maybe throw the book out the window, the book that we were given back in the day, and try and really look at what works for the people in the company that you work at. When it comes to policies as well, so it goes in with the inclusion, but instead of using HR jargons, just write it so that people actually understand it, and have used language that is inclusive for people. Because I mean, I'm sure you've seen lots of stuff out there with very formal HR language. We definitely have done a huge job on that, because it's one thing to have the candidate experience, but what happens afterwards when people do arrive. And, you know, a couple of things, just an idea to give to people as well, that, for example, this year, the maternity policies and the paternity policies have changed to primary parent leave and supportive parent leave. And we changed the whole language around it too. So little things like that can make a world of difference. Having policies not just for the sake of it, like the bullying, harassment, and sexual harassment stuff that just came out in legislation. Don't just do them because it's legally required. We rolled out a policy months ago, and the training and an anomalous reporting tool, because we wanted to do a package that it's all together. So it isn't just a tick box exercise, but actually, what do you want to achieve with that? It's about having, making sure that people feel safe. So try and throw the HR books aside sometimes and just listen to the people, and just go with the culture of the company that you work for. And that's probably the best way to do it. Go with your heart sometimes.
Couldn't think of a better final point to finish this live on. Zsuzsa, you said to me before we went live, this is the first time you've ever done anything like this, and I think you've absolutely smashed it. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely fine. As I said, Zsuzsa's got other commitments, can't stay for a Q&A, unfortunately. But if you are looking for any questions to be answered, please do get them down in the comments, and she will come back to them as and when she can. But for now, Zsuzsa, again, thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much, everyone else, for coming along and watching.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Bye.